Good evening and welcome to The Square. Tonight it is second part conversation around Kwibuka28 as Rwanda commemorates 28 years against the genocide, the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. And as you know, last week we focused on genocide ideology and denial, and tonight the discussion will focus on initiatives to preserve memory, whether these initiatives are from youth-based initiatives. We're also going to look at conversations in digital spaces. And last but not least, we're also going to look at, in preserving memory, publications and testimonials published by authors in preserving the memories of loved ones and survivors and victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. My name is Ellen PC, host of The Square, and I'm happy to welcome with us in studio our guests as well as those also joining us online. And I'm happy to welcome in studio here on my right, very, very happy to have with us on the first time on The Square, Dimitri Sisi Mukanyirigira, who is the Vice President of JRG. She's also the author, recently published 2022 of the book Do Not Accept to Die. Dimitri, it's an honor to have you on The Square.
Thank you, Diana.
Great. Also with us, we have Christian Inhwari. Christian is the founder and director of Our Past Initiative. Christian, great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. And also joining us on behalf of Digital Kwibuka is Rita Umutesi Gatsinzi, and she's joining us all the way from South Korea. Rita, I'm told it's around 4 a.m., so we're really honored to have you on the show tonight. Thank you for making time.
Pleasure is mine. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. Also joining us are the Square resident panelists. As always, I'm joined by Charles Haba. Charles, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Same here, Dana. How are you?
Good. We are also usually joined by Brenna Namata. Unfortunately, she's not with us, but I know she'll be following the conversation from wherever she is. And like we do before we kick off, we have midweek highlights from the Square resident panelists. And Charles, if there's something that's got your attention this week you'd like to share, please go ahead.
President Kagame is in Congo Brazzaville, and it's not the first time he has made part of his speech in French. Now, over the last several years, I've been having an argument with my peers and some younger than me about the importance of preserving French, learning French, and making an effort to not discard French as a language. Now, you may argue that, and all sorts of flimsy reasons that it's too late to learn it or it's no longer relevant. And I hope that with the president speaking French, those naysayers are going to understand that it's extremely important to learn French. So yes, I'm extremely impressed. It has political connotations, but I always tell people, politics aside, it's just for your own good that you can speak an extra language.
Absolutely. Yes. How fluent is your French, Charles?
Better than my Kinyarwanda.
I'm sure it's better than mine. Wow. If it's better than your Kinyarwanda, it's clearly better than mine. So thank you very much to our guests. Thank you very much also to our viewers for tuning in, for retweeting. I've been seeing lots of conversations ahead of the show. I encourage you to keep it up using hashtag #TheSquareRW. We'll be reading off our social media your comments during the show. So the first question I want to start with is youth-based initiatives. And these initiatives, what I want to talk about is an initiative called Our Past Initiative, founded 11 years ago, and the aim was to educate Rwandan youth about Rwandan history and in particular, the Rwandan 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. And for this, I'd like to go to Christian, who is here, founder and director of Our Past. And Christian, if you could share with us, what was the inspiration over 10 years ago, 11 years ago in founding Our Past? If you could just kick off by, sharing some of the inspirational reasons as to creating this and just some achievements to date.
Thank you so much. We started Our Past back in 2012, and the whole idea behind starting Our Past, we were a group of dance group. We were a dance group, a group of young people from different backgrounds, from different high schools and different families, and we were just part of the entertainment industry where we were performing and organizing events for the youth. And after some time, we realized that we had an audience of most of them young people, those who were young during the genocide or was born after the genocide. That was our main audience. And looking among us, I was the oldest, and I was 19, 20, and I was the head of the group. So we thought about what can we do to make an impact, and what can we do to learn from the history and to teach other fellow young people. So that's where the whole idea came from, and we were just a dance group. We had no idea of how poetry works or drama or plays, stuff like that. Then we approached this other group of young people. The name was in French, Jardin Je Vis. Jardin Je Vis, it's like I have art and I live. If I try to put that in English, so that's where the idea came from. We approached them. We did the collaboration. Then we did the first show. So we started with three main objectives. The first one was educating young people, those who were young during the genocide or was born after the genocide. The second one was encouraging parents and our old people to talk about the truth on the history, to tell us more about what happened. Because if you look today, the fight is not in machetes and guns anymore. It's everywhere. It's on social media. It's in the media. So we wanted to encourage parents to talk to their kids, to talk to our fellow young people, and teach us more about the history, mostly the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. The third one, we wanted to involve the youth, those ones who were approaching and who were attracting, to be part of the process of rebuilding the country. That's the third objective. And yeah, those were the three objectives we had, and I think in the past 11 years, we have achieved, I can't say 100% our goal, but we are almost there. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Christian. And just as a follow-up question to that, if you could share with us, working for over a decade with young people in Rwanda, educating them about our history, what can you say is the attitude of young Rwandans, of Rwandans in Rwanda, as well as Rwandans abroad, when it comes to sort of the attitudes with regards to being educated about our history, specifically the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, and what do you think needs to improve, if anything?
Thank you so much. In the past 11 years, we have been doing different activities. We have an event that happens every year on the 9th of April since we started. So you can, by the audience we have at the event, you can see that young people want to know more. Young people want to be part of the commemoration events. But we need people to guide us. We need people who understand the history to guide us. When you look at the audience we started with an audience of 300 people, and now we are at 2,300 people. So that shows you what the youth and how the youth is thirsty to consume that, if we can have someone to guide us. And I think we need enough information. We need the old generation to give us guidance, to help us. We need the old generation to give us access to information, and the right information, because information out there, we have so many people giving us whatever they have, but some of them, they just want to confuse the young generation about the history. So today what I think needs to be improved is how the older generation is approaching the young one, because there is a very, very huge gap. And that's where I think we need to improve as coming together with the young and the older generation, and see how we can remove that gap that is between the two generations.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christian. We'll definitely be taking a deeper dive into what you've said, looking at, hearing from the rest of the panelists. I'd like to go to Dimitri. And it's really an honor to have you on this show. And I want to talk about another aspect of preserving memory, which is in terms of published authors publishing their works, publishing their stories. And this year you published a book called Do Not Accept to Die. And in it you share your childhood stories, your experience surviving the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, and your life in Rwanda to date. So I haven't yet read it. I know Charles and I will be buying a copy after this show. But I just wanted, if you could share with us, publications, published testimonials are a very significant way of preserving memory. If you could just share with us the inspiration behind this book, Do Not Accept to Die. What inspired you to write it? And following that, what more do you think needs to be done when we are talking about preserving memory in Rwanda when it comes to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi?
Yeah. Thank you, Diana. It's also my pleasure and honor to be with you tonight. And like you said, I just published on the 1st of April. It took me a long time. That was, I have 5 kids, and some of them, the book is older than them because in Kwibuka28, I had my first manuscript. Yeah. Then I destroyed it, burnt. Then I did another one for Kwibuka28. I didn't publish it. And for that...
So from Kwibuka10 to
Kwibuka28, that project.
Wow.
So it wasn't easy at all. Yeah. So it's... first of all, my inspiration was my kids and the young generations. Because some bad stories we have in ourselves, some bad experiences during the genocide, it is never easy to talk about it. We try, but we never give it full. So I said, for the sake, for my kids to know, because I've never told them, I decided I will write. And then also for you guys, for new generations, for youth, to know what happened. Then I think that the good thing for me it was COVID. Because during the first lockdown, I sat down and I was feeling the fact of staying home brought me back into the genocide. But this time with positive vibes, with like it's no longer me, it's all of us, and it is for our protection, and the government is with us, and there is no fear. So for me, it was an opportunity to sit down, have time, and now decide to start. So the inspiration is youth, it's my kids, it's Rwanda. Because if you go back into the genocide, the fear, the death, the everything bad, we don't wish to happen. I would like to never see it again if I'm living. So that was my inspiration, the love of my kids and the youth to know, and the Rwanda to be preserved, if I can call it like that. So it took me a long time, but again, like the other part of your question, it is also the best way of preserving memory. Because if you don't put it on writing, no one will know. And if you don't know, it is not easy to prevent. So for me and for my other colleagues, authors of the genocide books, the good intention is to play our role, to give a small contribution to the prevention of any other genocide or cycle of violence. So that was my aim by publishing.
And I just want to go back, just before I go to Charles and then we go to Rita. I really, my curiosity was piqued when you said it took you a decade between 2010 and 2020. What were some of the reasons as to why in 2010 you felt you're not ready to publish it vis-a-vis, I know you said, the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, it made a lot of us, be introspective and look inwards, but even before COVID, like during this period, what was your creative process? And I'm asking this because I know there are also other genocide survivors who probably want to put pen to paper, but it's not easy. So just sharing that creative process and why it took you a couple of years.
Yes, actually at each year or each Kwibuka period, I used to publish like articles, small writing on Facebook, on, you know, and I just put it to see how people can react, because for each author, writing bad memories is not easy, because you tend to think about the readers. Why am I doing this to Diana? You know, like if you read it, I'm feeling you when you're reading it. So it is not easy. From those different articles and small pieces of writing, I saw that people would like to know. And Kwibuka28, I published an article in Diva magazine. By that time, then I saw how people reacted. The audience, the attention, like people want to know. And many of my friends were not here in Rwanda, so they want to know. And I cannot sit down and tell Charles what happened. So I decided to put it in a book, finally, 28 years later. And yeah, it's a must for every survivor, but it's not an easy task, exercise, but I would encourage everyone to try. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really struck by the compassion you have as a genocide survivor on the person reading your experience.
I think
you're thinking about
deserve better.
You know, you're thinking about
deserve better stories than
I
that
know.
one.
You know, you're thinking about the reader, but it just also shows it shows how important it is for us to really know, regardless of how painful it is, even though we're just reading your experiences, and to really keep on preserving memory. Charles, in light of what Dimitri and Christian have shared with us, what are some of your comments and thoughts?
First of all, just to encourage. I mean, it's extremely humbling that you can tell your story. It's not it's not mean feat. It's taken you 18 years, if we may say that, and I guess my guess is that the most difficult bit is really being able to overcome your emotions and your bad history in your own words. And so congratulations, I think, are in order, and I think you'd be, we are very envious of you. I think I almost relate with what Dimitri is saying in terms of telling your children these stories. You know, my daughters, especially the younger ones, keep asking me questions that I cannot very easily answer. So, because they are not able to go to school, they are not able to go swimming, they are not able to go to do the fun things that they are supposed to be doing while they are on holiday. So then you will explain to them what happened, and for a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, it's very easy for them to immediately forget it and say, okay. And the following morning they ask you the same question, okay. When will the genocide end? So that we go back swimming. Then you explain to them it ended, it happened during this period, and you know. So for a young brain, and this brings me to Christia's point earlier on about the definition of young. Yeah, the brains digest matter in different doses. So for a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, it might be just about what makes them happy. But it's extremely important that that message is rhymed and rhymed all over again, so that by the time they are of age, 10, 11, 12 years, they remember that this is why this is what we are remembering, and it should never happen again. But obviously, it's, and I like the work that Christia is doing, because youth consume content very differently from the way adults consume it. And on last week's show, we labored to explain the point around our education in schools. So whether, and by school, it can stretch from Sunday school to maternelle, your nursery and primary, and all the way upwards. And I think that's the biggest challenge that our keepers of memory, our education system, have to package every piece of our dark history to whatever level of education that we're giving our children.
Absolutely. I would like to go to you, Rita, all the way in Asia, in South Korea, and I want to talk about digital spaces. And I know we've had Digital Kwibuka on the show before. Digital Kwibuka is an initiative that began in 2020 as a result of the COVID-19 lockdown and restrictions in physical gathering, and also commemoration activities were limited to being online. And what you and a group of friends did was come up with Digital Kwibuka. Very innovative, and it was based on the fact that you wanted to still have remembrance, but the only way you could do it was online. So Rita, if you could share with us the impact of Digital Kwibuka to date, just to kick off that part of the conversation with you.
Thank you. So I think the impact so far can be put into, let me say, 3 things. So, like you mentioned, we tried to create and build the space for compression in times of pandemic and actually another. And what happened was we managed to create that. We managed to have spaces where survivors were reminded that we're thinking of them, we're commemorating with them, we're in this together. They don't have to feel lonely, especially in this time where they can't, gather together, convene, do the usual we usually do in commemoration. So I think the first thing we managed to do was to create the space during the pandemic, and while doing that, what we did is hold certain events, and the events we held are usually informative. And the aim that we have when we're doing that is to learn our history, especially as young Rwandans, and learn all these historical facts that actually later have to help us deal with, the genocide ideologists and deniers. And since Digital Kwibuka is an online platform, it helps us preserve that. As one of our team members usually says, the internet doesn't forget. So if we are learning, if we're getting all this information from the people who know the history, the people who have researched the history and actually know what they're talking about, when we put it out on these online platforms, we preserve the memory much easier. Another thing we managed to do, I think, is to allow Rwandans in various corners of the world to be able to commemorate, to be able to come together as a community and commemorate together. So, like you mentioned, I'm in South Korea, and the schedules are way different. When we're in Kwibuka, we're probably having classes, we're going on with day-to-day activities, and the other world is not doing what the Rwandans are doing in that moment. And what I think we managed to do was to create a platform where Rwandans abroad could be part and fully participate in commemoration, something some of them couldn't do for the longest, because of being home and away. And Digital Kwibuka has managed to fill a certain void that comes back with being abroad, being by yourself, feeling lonely, especially in those times. So we managed to do that, and I think it has been impactful because the feedback we get is overwhelming. People manage to be there for our dear survivors as we collectively and carefully curated the information about the genocide against the Tutsi. And knowing that we're doing these things on a digital platform and we're preserving them, they're available and accessible anytime by anyone who wants. And like we're mentioning, the young Rwandans, to be able to deal with the forces outside that are trying to dilute our history, we need to be better equipped. And what better way to learn as the young generations than on spaces that we understand better, which is online platforms. So managing to reach thousands of Rwandans and friends of Rwanda all over the world, managing to create space for our survivors where they can feel the love, feel loved is something that we think is pretty impactful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. I'm particularly inspired because, like Charles, you said on the show last week, we were talking about genocide ideology and genocide denial. And what we see, especially in the diaspora on online platforms, is that, you know, divisionists, negationists, deniers are very, very, very active, you know, from the get-go. And these are children who are, you know, 1 or 2 years during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. They are now leading these conversations. So it's a combination of youth, and it's a combination of digital platforms, you know, the internet, so to speak. And it is a growing concern because they actually do have people who listen and believe this aspect. So my question to you, and you've touched on it, I just want you to touch on it a bit more. What do you think needs to be strengthened with regards to digital platforms online and how youth engage on these platforms? Because primarily it's young people who engage on these platforms. What do you think needs to be strengthened, especially for digital Kwibuka? Personally, I feel like it's not something that should happen only in April or April to July, but it should happen throughout the year. So, you know, what should be strengthened? What resources does an initiative, a platform like yours need?
Thank you. The first thing we believe in at Digital Kwibuka is learning. And as young Rwandans, mostly us as the post-genocide generation, we need to learn because as we amplify the survivors' testimonies, as we curate these spaces, without having the proper knowledge, without having the proper history, without having the proper facts, we cannot counter these narratives that the deniers and the ideologists are pushing. So I think as young Rwandans, we should begin by acknowledging that preserving memory and fighting ideologists and genocide deniers is our responsibility. It's not something that we should be leaving to certain institutions or certain individuals. You know, it's politics, you don't want to be involved. If anything, we actually owe it to our survivors with their resilience and, you know, how they've managed to hold on to life. So I think what we need to do is to engage in learning these historical facts that are going to help us to tackle these problems. And as I mentioned, at Digital Kwibuka, we prioritize learning because not knowing is not a problem. But if you know that you don't know and you're not making an effort to learn, then, you know, that's where the problem is. So fighting the ideologists and the deniers is just part of one thing we're doing. What we aim at is we want to replace the misinformation they're putting out in the world by sharing the actual historical facts, by sharing images, by sharing videos, by mentioning the names of the lost souls. We cannot always be on the defensive. The first thing we need to do is to learn to take lead. We have to lead the conversations to where we want them. We need to take the narrative into our own hands and make space for the truth and educate ourselves. And then in that case, we will be better equipped to fight these ideologists and deniers. So allow me use a little bit Kinyarwanda ngo iyo ushaka gufata umujura wakujengereje urara ijoro nkawe ukamutegereza kugira ngo umufate ariko ntibiba bivuze ko wowe urimbura mukoro ahubwo ubugira ngo iryo joro uraye wicaye ushaka kumufata andi majoro azakurikiraho azabe wowe n'abawe muzabe murara neza utarara wicaye. So I think that is what we need to do as the young generation. And you know, I know it doesn't happen overnight, it's a process, but we need to learn the tactics because it's a system they've put in place, the deniers, and we need to learn to understand their systems, to understand what denial looks like, to understand it's all manipulations, manifestations, and all the types it comes in, to be able to dismantle the system they've created and fight them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. like I said, really inspiring to see young people, being proactive in these things. I'm sorry, I keep on referring to last week's show, but there's really a connection with the conversation we're having right now. We cannot leave it to the government or to Kwibuka or to different associations of genocide survivors and that sort of thing. Youth, whether, direct survivors of the genocide or not, really need to come forward to dismantle this narrative and counter it. And it's really inspiring to see the work that you're doing, people like Jessica Mniza doing, people like Christian here with us are doing. The next part of the question, I would like to just go back to you, Christian. Just again, regarding the role of youth in combating, presenting a counter narrative when it comes to genocide ideology and genocide denial, because a counter narrative is also one way of preserving our memory, because you're actively and consistently countering some of these narratives. So what's your take on the role of youth in this, and where do you see young people in this fight in the next let's say 10 years?
Will you come again?
My question was basically the role of youth in combating genocide denial and genocide ideology, because combating this is a way of also preserving memory. So my question is, how do you see youth in this fight in the next 10 years?
Oh, thank you so much. I think now, under the leadership of this country, that is trying to provide and help the young generation. I think, and looking at the youth and how thirsty they are to know and to discover the truth and understand what happened back in 1994. As I asked, we need to use the knowledge the older generation has. And I think with the youth we have today, we have information, we have social media, we can read books online. I think looking in the next 10 years, I believe we'll have the young people of today being the ones defending this country in any form of those fights, because as I said, today is not about the guns anymore. It's about what are these people giving us in terms of knowledge. So as the youth, I always ask them to dig deep and find the right information, but also I'm always asking the older generation, as I said before, to don't just wait, don't just ask the youth to go out there and fight these genocide deniers when you're not giving them what they need to go out there and fight. We need to equip them with the right information for like that they can be able to fight. That's what needs to be done. But looking at how the youth are trying to be involved in every act. Before, we used to get into a commemoration period and just find things to distract the young people because no one was interested to be part of this kind of fights. But as you can see on social media today, we're having young people who come to fight these genocide deniers with facts. Before, it used to be just young people coming out cursing people here and there, but today they defend themselves with knowledge and information and facts. So I think we need to push a little bit hard into that, then things will get better.
Dimitri, where do you see in the next decade, when it comes to the role of the connection between young people preserving memory and having counter narratives? Where do you see the youth, and what would you think needs to be done when it comes to the older generation, giving them the information that they need? One of the things we keep on seeing is that the young people, whether it's on the square or not, they keep on saying, and like Christian mentioned, we need older people to guide us. We need older people to give us this information. In the next 10 years, what are your expectations when it comes to preserving memory and the connection between young and old people in Rwanda?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Actually, I'm so happy of those youth initiatives. When I was invited last week for the PRP event, how the space was full of people, and actually it became small. Many were standing behind. I was so happy. I was like, wow, how can we celebrate this? I think they took me out of Kwibuka thing, and I was in myself celebrating what is happening, because it's a very comforting or assuring that the future is bright. And initiatives like that one shows that youth are playing their role of being responsible for the future. And in 10 years to come, Christ himself will be considered as old people, and our grandchildren will be looking at him. So it's a good, the succession is being done, and we are fulfilling the legacy of people who have been killed. So for me, it's good to know. And also kids, young generation, tend to say we don't transmit, we don't give them, the right message. But if I'm mom today, I can tell my kids, when they meet among themselves, they will share and know. That is a good approach for parents to give messages through others. He might say, Christa is my son, I have told him everything, but Jessica's mom was not able to tell. So between themselves, they can find a way of exchanging and knowing what is right to know. So in 10 years to come, I'm happy. My generation won't be any more able to talk, to write, to go social media, but those one will be doing a good job. So it's a promising future for us. Thank you.
Charles, your thoughts?
When Rita was speaking, I just thought about how acidic the internet can be, and I think the best form of defense is attack. So the point being that if you just wait for people the deniers or the people who are changing the narrative to post whatever they are posting, or to upload whatever content they are putting up there for you, if you wait for them to do it before you react, then you're only playing catch-up games. So the message, and I really commend Rita and her crew for whatever they're doing, is to constantly take the fight to people, because if the deniers are not sleeping, then to her adage about spending the whole night awake to catch the thief, I think that's really the right approach. But additionally, I think we're not going to run away from a fact that the biological clock will tick, and one generation will go, another generation will come. It is extremely painful when you see kids in their 20s, treading the narrative of genocide denial. And then therefore, the point that Dimitri raises about, and I'll just allude this to the title of your book, that you choose not to die. And my interpretation of the title itself is, it's not that it's the individual who is choosing not to die. It's a truth that should live on forever. And I think that's the narrative that should be constantly sung.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd just like to encourage our viewers to share their tweets, to share their conversations and their comments with regards to what we are talking about tonight. And we have we have one tweet coming in, one of a couple that I hope we'll have time to read. If you could have this on our screens. The first tweet is from Seramba, who says, "Youth should take a big role in creating and innovating new and older initiatives that would enhance and strengthen memory today and onwards." Definitely echoes what we've been saying on the show. We have some other tweets coming up that I'll read later, but right now I'd like to just go into, the last part of this discussion, which is, closing remarks. What are we thinking moving forward? What needs to be done more? Just to recap what we've been talking about. And for that, I'd like to start with you, Rita. Rita, if you could have us. If you could have her with us. Rita, really, closing remarks on behalf of Digital Kwibuka, as well as other initiatives, youth or non-youth based in Rwanda, that are aimed at preserving memory, that are aimed at countering narratives that, undermine the reality of what happened in 1994. Just closing remarks in terms of what you think we should focus on collectively in order to strengthen this aspect of preserving memory.
Thank you. What I think still needs to be done is to acknowledge that we still need to insulate these online spaces from the deniers, make it our own. So as the young Rwandans, as the youth, we shouldn't be scared that we don't know enough, that, how I wasn't there. How do I remember? How is it my responsibility? I think we need to agree, need to realize that tomorrow's Rwanda is ours. And in order to, how we keep saying that we don't have enough information, we don't have memories about what happened, and our parents or the older generation is not always willing or probably find it easy to share it with us. We need to know that it's hard for them, but with the available resources, with the available tools, what role can we play as the young people? And then, as we see, these digital spaces that we put in these things allow us to preserve these memories. So generation after generation, as they come up, then they will find these historical facts, these preserved memories that can help them go through that. So I think we just need to keep equipping ourselves. I think we have to keep learning and keep combating the false narratives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. Thank you very much. Yes, Rita. Thank you very much, Rita. I'd like to go to Christian, but before I do, I'd like to just read a tweet that's coming in with regards to the conversation that we are having with us today. And this tweet is from Magnifique, and if you could have that on our screens. Just very quickly, Magnifique, if you could have that on our screens. Magnifique is saying that impressive work done by the young people in Rwandan diaspora. Well done, Rita, Christian, and of course, always amazing to listen to Dimitri Sisi. Not knowing is not a problem. Absolutely spot on that. But what matters is what we are doing to be informed. Digital Kwibuka, thanks for your work. Christian, I'd like to go to you as we come to the end of this discussion in terms of just closing remarks on the way forward in terms of preserving memory, not only by youth, but Rwandans collectively.
Yeah, first one, I will ask my very young people to go out there and ask, because I'm pretty sure they will find the right answers if they ask. But I'll also ask the old generation to let us help you in your healing process. Some of us were not here during those times, but we can help you in your healing process. If you open up and talk to your kids, and I'm saying this because I talked to my dad about his history for the very first time in 2017. So it was after I went to his place of birth for Kwibuka without him knowing. So when I came back, we had to sit and talk. So I think we need to start asking questions. We need to, because if we are saying that we have to protect what have been achieved, how are we going to protect that if we know nothing about who achieved that and what was the purpose of achieving that? So we need to to be well equipped with knowledge, and for us to be able to protect what have been achieved and achieve more. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Christia. It's been an honor to have you on the show, and really, kudos to the work that you're doing. You know, when you started by saying the numbers, when you started in 2011, and the numbers you have now, Dimitri alluded to the fact that the event you had last over the weekend, just a few days ago, it was packed at the Kigali Genocide Memorial, with young people as well. So it really shows, like you said, the thirst of young people to know more about what they can do, and also the proactive nature of what you're doing. You said it, and Rita said it. Let's not wait for these narratives to meet us. Let's be proactive in actually countering them. Let's take the lead and tell these stories and tell these truths with facts, facts, and facts. And I'd like to go to you, Dimitri, before I go over to Charles. Closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Diana. For me, it's actually a thank you note, because thank you, youth. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, all other initiatives, because it gives us like courage and motivation to go on. I went yesterday to talk to people, to students from AUCA, the Adventist University. So their medicine faculty has a lot of foreigners. So I went, but they are 20 years old. They are 22 years old. I was 22 years old during the genocide. So referring them to PRP or Kwibuka Digital was for me.
PLP is Peace and Love Proclaimers.
Yes, those youth Christian Delita initiatives. Yes. For me, telling them about those two was a way of telling them, go outside your classroom and run. Those young guys and are your age. So also to my fellow survivors, we are now considered as old, and it is true, but please speak up. Speak up, tell your children what can be told. And to the young generations also, I apologize, because sometimes we don't know how, we are still judging what to give you, what to not give you, because we also have a role to protect you. So if a book comes out, it's after a lot of trials and hesitations. So it's not an easy thing to write and to share, but what you see on the ground shows that we have a promising future, and we are here. We don't accept to die.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And like I said, we'll definitely be getting our copies of the book following this conversation. And congratulations very much.
Thank you.
Honestly, I would not be surprised if there's another one that follows it in a shorter time than it took to write the first one. So congratulations, and thank you for joining us tonight, Dimitri.
Thank you, Diana.
Great. Charles, closing remarks?
Yeah, the initiatives Christias and the Ritas have are absolutely to be commended. And, Dimitri says something extremely important about non-Rwandans. So whereas we might think that the fight is to be taken on to deniers, and also the education to be given to Rwandans who come from families of genocide survivors, it's very important to know that there is no single Rwandan, wherever they are, who has not been affected in one way or another by the genocide against the Tutsi. Now, by virtue of the fact that Rwanda has opened up its borders, we have huge investments in maize tourism, we have foreigners from all over the world who are part and parcel of our community. The only justice we can do to them is to be able to make them understand our history, our present times, why and how we live the life that we live, why you have very many child-headed households, why children don't have grandparents, and so they understand our history. I mean, for crying out loud, we are receiving thousands of refugees who are going to settle in this country. So how then do we ensure that they understand us as a people? So it's through initiatives like the Christians and through the likes of Dimitri, continuing to tell their stories in whatever forms that they have. So it's just encourage these initiatives of telling stories, of publishing the stories, and the online content. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Charles. Personally, I'd like to just appeal to these youth-based initiatives, Digital Kwibuka, Our Past Initiative, authors. We've had different authors on the square talking about sharing their experiences as survivor of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. My appeal would be, let's let the public know what support you need to ensure that the work that you're doing is throughout the year, not just in April, not just April, May, June, July, but from January to December, be a bit more vocal, be stringent in telling us, those who can, in different spaces, what support, what capacity do you need to be able to tell these stories throughout the year. That would be my personal appeal, but still saying that, major congratulations, especially with young people. A lot of other people look at young people doing this work and try to distance themselves. It's too political, it's too complicated, it's rough, it's not easy, but nothing is easy, especially when it comes to people who, by just day and night, they're dismantling the realities of what happened. So yeah, let us know how we can help, how we can offer support and really strengthen the voices of your initiatives. But thank you very much. So once again, thank you to Rita, thank you to Christian, thank you to Dimitri, and to our viewers who've been tuning in as always and sharing their comments. Thank you very much. Keep the conversation going using hashtag #TheSquareRW. Even though the show ends, we always engage online with these conversations. And to our partners, Uzi Collections and Bourbon Coffee, thank you for always supporting The Square. Have a good night. See you again next week.